Hello, welcome to the channel. So I thought I'd do a bit of a thing today about artillery, and when I get into a period, I always enjoy painting the guns the most, the guns, the cannons, the artillery of that period, and I really kind of like to find out what kind of artillery different forces had, and just give it a big, really go down that pathway. So I seek out the different cannons first of all, and I can't wait to get my hands on a big gun, basically. And I like big guns, I cannot lie. So here we go. So I'm going to take you through all the different periods that I play. Now, I haven't just got the artillery for these armies, I've actually got armies to go with them as well. It would be crazy if I just painted cannons all the time, as much as I might want to. So starting with the Wars of the Roses. So this is kind of my first period that I play in terms of really decent artillery. So the Wars of the Roses, you probably had two kinds of artillery pieces. You had the massive siege cannons, I haven't got any of those, and the mortars, I don't have any of those, but I do have a couple of field pieces to go with my Wars of the Roses armies. So this one from Perry's, as you can see, and the second one probably from Perry's as well. Okay, you can see the bands on the barrels there. You know, they weren't having fully cast barrels at this point. They had to put iron bands around the barrel in order to keep the barrel together. It's a famous part of Shakespeare is that thing Henry V where he's talking about, breaking the barrel, basically, breaking the cracks in the barrel in order to fire the cannon harder and make it more effective. So just pick that up and let you have a look at that one. So I'll put a bit of a redoubt on these if you haven't seen them before. I think I've shown these before on the channel, but a bit of a redoubt at the front. Okay, and a four-man crew guy there lighting it up. Just made the redoubt out of bits of wood that I had lying around, parts from other things that I was using, and yeah, not much more you can say about that. So just two cannons for Wars of the Roses. Again, I probably need a few more. I should probably have more than two, really, because I've got quite a couple of quite large Wars of the Roses armies. In fact, I think I've got probably more Wars of the Roses figures than anything else, partly thanks to Martin Brooke at Seven Sun, who kind of has this spell that he casts on people to make them buy Wars of the Roses figures. Okay, so there we go, Wars of the Roses. So the next period that I got into, I got into this period probably first of all, was the English Civil War. Now, English Civil War, they went crazy with their cannons. They just kept churning them out, and there's so many different types of cannons in the English Civil War. And really, this was a period where, cannon technology really took off. So at the back here, we've got the really big guns. We've got the cannons and the demi-cannons, again with a bit of a redoubt at the front, okay, to kind of keep the cannon safe. Here's another one. Look at the size of that. This is why I like cannons. It's massive, isn't it? The wheels are pretty much like tank wheels, surrounded by steel or iron, and the gun crew there loading it up. Okay, so these are the biggest guns, the cannons. I think this one on the left is slightly smaller than this one, but this really is a monster. Okay, a monster of a gun. That's a big gun. Okay, that's a cannon, possibly a demi-cannon. Okay, although this one is probably the demi-cannon, slightly smaller gun. Then we have the slightly smaller guns again. So we've got the culverins, which is a slightly smaller gun. It's got a thinner, slimmer barrel, a longer, thinner barrel. Probably fires a similar kind of shot to the demi-cannon. Okay, probably a bit more accurate, the culverin. Okay, we've got a culverin this side as well. Again with a redoubt at the front. Okay, so again four-man crews all the way across. Okay, so these would probably be your, if we're talking about pike and shot, this would probably be your medium guns. Okay, and obviously the ones that are about your heavy guns. Okay, again, field guns on the field, yeah. But huge guns, huge guns. And then slightly smaller guns, probably your light guns, your Sakers and your minions. Okay, so your Saker, slightly smaller gun compared to the Corverans. Guy there is lifting it into position, as you can see. Okay, and then your this is probably a minion or a slightly smaller Saker. They weren't, the problem they had was they weren't really very standardised during the 17th century, during the English Civil War. Standardisation of cannons didn't really come in until 1716, so about 50 years after the English Civil War. But they used to give them lots of weird names, didn't they? Falconet, Falcon, which were the small, very small ones. They give them some really unusual names, and like I say, there were lots and lots of different types of cannons in English Civil War. And they absolutely loved their cannons, which is one of the reasons why I really like this period, and I've got more artillery for this period than any other. Okay, so there's a big gun again. Okay, so yeah, I just the wheels as well. You can imagine it trundling across the battlefield. They're all kind of iron shod, apart from a couple of them. You know, just love them. Okay, you're right. Okay, and nice redoubts on the fronts of these as well. So they would just sit there; they wouldn't move, pretty much. Okay. Then we move on to the latest period that I'm doing at the moment, Napoleonic. So Napoleonic War. So I've got two of these now. So last video I did, I only had one cannon. Okay, one. I think these are 6-pounders. Yeah, Austrian 6-pounders. Okay, only had one last time. Now I've got two. Okay, so I'm probably going to add maybe a third one to that as well. Let's have a proper look at this one. Okay, Austrian 6-pounder. So I mean, I'm far from being an expert on Napoleonics. I just started getting into the period, but I think they really they went for the smaller, more agile guns during that period. You know, the massive cannons wheeling around the battlefield weren't very practical, were they? I mean, I know the Russians had gigantic guns, but everyone else had 6-pounders, 9-pounders. Okay, much more practical for quite a large mobile battle. Okay, so there we go. So two of those now. They're from Lucas at Piano Wargames. Yep, his metal Austrians, and I think I've sung their praises enough, so I won't say any more about them. But they're fabulous. Okay, you're right. So there you go. Your Austrian 6-pounders. They were making an appearance at Boards and Swords in June. Hopefully they'll do some damage to my opponents. Okay, so we're sticking with the Germans and moving on to the Prussians. So a bit further forward in history now, 1870, Franco Prussian War. So we've gone 15th century, 17th century, early 18th century, and now late 18th century, Franco Prussian War. So there you've got the Krupp C64. Okay, it always makes me laugh with the little seats either side of it, so that men can sit, get a bit of a ride on the cannon. Okay, so it's been pulled backwards by horses. Okay, a guard there is guarding the shot and the powder stores. Probably shouldn't be that close to the cannon, to be honest, but there you go. Okay, so the Krupp C64. So I've got two of those, two Krupps. And these were, I think these were 6-pounders as well. Yeah, the Krupp. Okay. So, as we know, or as we may know, just put it into the light a little bit. The Prussians, well known for their artillery, and artillery had a big influence on the Franco Prussian War, and for the Prussians really was one of the reasons why they won. You know, their discipline and their use of artillery was very, very effective. Okay, in the Franco Prussian War. Okay, and then we've got the French, of course, their opponents in the Franco Prussian War. Okay, so the French with the Lahit, okay, I'm not sure how to pronounce it. And this was a slightly smaller gun. This was a 4-pounder, but it had an 8-pound shot. It's called a 4-pounder, but the shot was actually 8 pounds in weight. So maybe even a slightly heavier gun than the Krupp. And these have got, both these guns and the other gun have got quite thin barrels, so accuracy is more important. If you compare the Krupp to the Lahit, the Krupp looks like a more modern gun, doesn't it? It looks like a World War One artillery piece. You know, the shape of the barrel. You know, it's got none of the kind of the kind of elaboration we would normally expect to see. Whereas the Lahit was obviously an older looking gun. Looks almost Napoleonic, doesn't it? If you put it alongside the Austrian guns, you can see that there's, you know, they still look a little bit Napoleonic in their style, so not as effective. And the second one, so I've got 2 of each for these. Okay, so a couple of guns each for the French. Okay, and yeah, I must admit I like the French uniforms, and you can see the influence, can't you, from the French on the American Civil War. Like the, as I've said before in videos, a lot of the American Civil War uniforms basically copied from the French. That's where that style comes from. There's the little caps and the kepis and those kinds of things. Okay, so finally, not quite finally, but not really a gun, but a machine gun, the Mitrailleuse, the French Franco Prussian War early machine gun. A little bit like the Gatling gun, not as effective as the Gatling gun. Okay, not as rapid in its rate of fire, but a very similar kind of early machine gun. And then a little bit of something for the fantasy fans out there, a cannon from the old world. There we go. A steam tank, an Empire steam tank with another massive gun on the front, and that gun is probably almost as big as the English Civil War cannon, you know. So old world steam tank with a couple of guns on the front. Like I say, love them, love big guns. And this one, I forgot what it's called, volley gun. That's it. Volley gun from the old world. And I've got an Empire, the old world. The reason I've done that is because I like historical stuff, and the Empire are quite historical. They're quite Renaissance, aren't they? Early Renaissance in their style. Okay, so that's me then. Franco Prussian War, Napoleonic War, going back in time, English Civil War, Wars of the Roses. Okay. Like I say, I think if I had to choose, I'd probably say English Civil War, just for the heavy metal aspect. And probably my favourite is still that massive cannon. I think it might even just be a demi-cannon. I think cannons might be even bigger than that, to be honest. Okay, right. Hope you've enjoyed a look through my cannons. I enjoyed looking at my artillery collection, my different periods. I'll probably get more. I'll probably buy maybe a couple more Austrian guns. Obviously, if I go into another army for Napoleonic Civil War, Napoleonic Wars, I'll probably get guns for them as well. So, yeah, as I say, I just love painting cannons, love painting the crews up, doing the little vignettes, putting together the little bases and everything, and really enjoyed doing all of these. It's taken, I think I've done these all over about the last 4 or 5 years. Probably lockdown. I started really with my first army, my English Civil War army, in lockdown, so 4 years ago. Okay guys, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe if you enjoy the content, and I'll be catching up with you pretty soon with my the next